Hello everybody. Today I will be discussing two of the most popular horror games, Outlast and Amnesia: The Dark Descent. So you may have heard of these games before, maybe through YouTube or some other means, and may have even been told that they are quite terrifying. I have played both these games multiple times, and I can tell you that they are indeed masters at scaring the player, although in very different ways. I remember sequences in both games where I definitely jumped back, or I could feel the adrenaline. So in both of these games, the character that you play has no way of defending themselves. Your only options are to run, hide, or die, which makes the overall experience pretty dreadful. They're also both in the first-person perspective, which really allows you to immerse yourself into the environment. It really feels like you're taking control of the character, and it feels like you are the character. In Outlast, you play as a private investigator trying to uncover the strange occurrences at an insane asylum. You're given a video camera equipped with night vision so that you can see in the dark, which is very important throughout the game. You must be careful when using this night vision though, because when you do, your camera battery depletes. If it happens to completely drain, the night vision will shut down and not function until you find some more batteries. There are batteries scattered throughout the game, and it's kind of weird. It kind of makes you wonder why there's so many batteries everywhere. There's some in drawers, some in shelves, interesting. This game relies heavily on jump scares and lots of gore to make the player feel very uneasy. There's tons of instances where, things can get kind of gross with the amount of grotesqueness of body parts, and there is definitely some areas where the jump scares are very functional. There's a few areas where I definitely jump back because they happen when you least expect them. So as you progress the game, you encounter many mentally unstable people who are just not there, and they would like nothing more to kill you just because they can. There is no real motive. The chase sequences that will ensue are very intense, and you also encounter a ghost called the Wall Rider throughout your experience, and his presence is not fun. His goal is to do nothing but scare you or just provide a little jump scare here and there. I will not spoil the story too much, as it is very good, or very entertaining at least, but things definitely ramp up about the halfway point onward, and things definitely happen to the character. So now, Amnesia, on the other hand, even though it is a horror game, is quite different in the way it scares you. This game takes place in a dilapidated castle during the 1800s. It becomes apparent very early on that something is very wrong with the castle, and it always feels like you're being watched. And instead of relying on jump scares and gore to scare the player, this game uses a lot of atmosphere. It is greatly effective and really immerses you into the experience and really makes you feel like you are the character that you're playing. Your imagination in this game does all of the work, and you actually sometimes even scaring yourself even though you're perfectly safe. And there's also a mechanic where you look at the monsters, your character starts to go insane or crunches teeth, and those sometimes be little bugs that crawl on your screen. You'll start to hallucinate sometimes. This overall mechanic adds to the overall anxiety though, because you aren't allowed to know what the monsters look like, and it kind of terrifies you because you don't know what the heck is what you're dealing with exactly. The majority of the beginning stages of the game are actually very slow and don't have any monsters except for some brief glimpses, and it's kind of just there for build up to when you actually finally encounter something. You do know that you're going to eventually encounter something, but you just don't know when. And yeah, the build up, as I said, is quite overwhelming at times. The monsters are humanoid in appearance, and it immediately gives you some unease because you can see some similarity, or you can kind of make out what they are, but you can tell something's very wrong with them. This game uses sound to full effect, and every soundtrack perfectly encapsulates the environment to further terrify you. The graphics of the game aren't the best, but this actually makes things scarier in some areas because some objects actually look like monsters. There's a few instances where I feel like I encountered something and then just like a support beam or a chair. There's even an invisible monster which lurks in the water. Every water sequence in this game is very intense. You can only tell where the monster is when it splashes in the water as it moves. You're luckily normally given boxes to jump onto to avoid the monster. However, every time you fall in, you're immediately filled with adrenaline as you hear the monster splashing towards you to consume you. You can't even see it, but you can hear it. I don't know, it sounds like Jaws kind of, just crunching on bones, and it's definitely an adrenaline-filled experience. The fear of water became a really quick phobia, at least for me in this game. You'll also sometimes stumble upon puzzles in both games. In Amnesia, they are way more interactive and require you to think. You will collect pieces of things and have to put them together to complete some areas. However, in Outlast, you will normally find yourself just pressing a button or sneakily scouting the area for where to go next. It's not really Outlast isn't very puzzle oriented, it's more of just sneaking around and trying to figure out where to go. When puzzles do arrive, it's not really there to bring the experience, it's just something to do. Both the stories in these games are also very well done and add a lot of mystery throughout your entire playthrough. You will not be bored with some bland narrative or just some sort of cliche story. There was definitely thought put into them and very unique experiences. Most of the things that happen to your character throughout your playthrough will definitely stick with you. So now to discuss which one is scarier. So both games are terrifying in their own right, but I personally think that Amnesia is way more effective in its deliverance. I was always on edge when playing this game and it was consistently terrifying. I was always full of dread every time I entered a room. I always felt like something was watching me. It was quite something. Outlast, I was only really scared when jump scares occurred or when I was being chased. It's funny, Amnesia was actually so terrifying when it came out that it became something that people would dare each other to play. There was quite a few reaction things on YouTube. They're actually quite funny. It also sparked many YouTubers' channels such as PewDiePie and Markiplier. Without this game, they probably would never have gotten as popular as they are. And it really just shows you how much of an impact this game had and still does on people.